Hey everyone, Cody here,
Austin
from MTG Knights, and today we're gonna be looking at one of Austin's deck that he's kind of constructed with some of the cards that we've amassed probably over the last 2 years that we've been playing, just random sets and stuff like that. So what would you say that what colors is this deck?
It's red and white.
Ultimately, like with this deck, what does it excel at, or what do you want it to do? Ultimately,
Mostly like gain life quick to out-sustain my opponents and get stronger creatures out to
like overpower them.
Yeah.
So like you're trying to get a bunch of life to beat them, like in sustain, until you can get out. Like you can beat them with either high power creatures or creatures that are just better than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Cool. So why don't we head over to the camera, and then you can show us the cards as we go through them, and then afterwards we'll talk about the cards that are in here and kind of maybe talk about some of the suggestions that we can, or changes that we can make in the upcoming future, because we actually will be getting cards soon in the future to hopefully make all of our decks stronger. So why don't we head over to the low camera, and I'll have you go through the deck, and then you can show us what's in there, and then we'll kind of talk about the deck as we go, and then afterwards. Okay? Mm-hmm. Oh, and one thing before we switch over to Austin's decks, we wanted to talk about like the decks that we have here in our house. Some of the decks that we have do have proxies in them. There's a couple reasons for that. One is that a bunch of proxies were given to us, and we kind of started using them because we had them. And some cards are kind of expensive, so we having kids and trying to do this whenever we have some extra money, we didn't always have time to buy the cards outright, because some of them are expensive. So we do have some proxies in our decks, but we do aim to replace those with the actual cards. It's not like we take them to tournaments or anything. At any of the events that we want to do in the future, we wouldn't do that. We don't advocate people taking counterfeits or proxies or anything like that to sanction events. But for us in our house, for us to playtest our decks, we do use the proxies that were given to us. And some of them were printed as well. And that was as placeholders, because the shop that we normally get our cards from didn't have them. So there are placeholders until we go back to the shop in a couple weeks to pick up more cards. So if you see them in the decks, just know that they are placeholders. We don't advocate, counterfeit cards or proxies and, legal play or anything like that. But for people who have them because, maybe they can't afford the actual card, or they just like the look of the card and want the feel of the card but can't afford it at that time, totally understandable. Makes sense to me to just use them in casual play if everyone's okay with it. But I just wanted to put that note out there because some of our decks do have those, so I figured I'd just be kind of upfront about that, now. So as a kind of reference, but I apologize for the derail. We'll go ahead and head over and take a look at the deck here.
So today we're going through my red and white deck, running 10 plains, 9 mountains, 1 stone quarry, 1 angel of vitality, 1 elixir of immortality, 1 Boros Charm, 1 moment of heroism, 1 lone missionary, 2 Johnny's Pride Mate, 1 Ankh-Crop, 1 Loxodon Life Channer, 1 Renewed Faith, 1 Warleader's Helix, 1 White Sun's Passage, 1 Impassioned Orator, 1 Ajani Goldmane, 1 On Sarah's Wings, 1 Queen's Commission, 1 Twin Blade Paladin, 1 Assemble the Legion, 1 Kathar's Crusade, 1 Angelic Destiny, 1 Chandra Pyrogenius, 1 Sarah's Guardian, 1 Martyr of Dusk, 1 Gift of Immortality, 2 Goldmane Griffins, 1 Squire's Devotion, 3 Vexing Devils, 1 Heroic Reinforcement, 1 Angel of Invention, 1 Shock, 2 Lightning Bolts, 1 Hammer of Perforos, 1 Lightning Helix, 1 Ajani Inspiring Leader, and 1 Spitmer.
So looking at your deck, like, you know, it's very hard to go multiple directions, right? You know, going soldiers and also angels and also, you know, life or burn, you know, vexing, like obviously it's a great card, but it, you know, it's not necessarily doing the same things. This, you know, I know these are big, these like Boros Charms and the helixes to do damage and gain health. But ultimately, you know, if you could kind of pick a direction, which direction would you want to go? Now I know there's red-white decks. Is that what you would ultimately try to do, is like, because I know a lot of them like will do this where they gain the health, but they also do like the burn damage, but that's not always like the ones where you're getting, you know, the flying and vigilance and stuff like that. So that's essentially what you're trying to do with this deck, right? Is the burn health kind of thing. So I think honestly, like the deck isn't bad, but obviously it needs some direction, right? So makes sense. So I think that over time we'd probably just kind of revisit the deck and look at some things that we could swap out and kind of look at direction, and maybe we'll find, you know, a deck online to kind of follow. But overall, I mean, it's got some strong cards in it, right? So it's got, you know, a couple of planeswalkers. Chandra, she's decent. Ajani's obviously pretty decent too. Kind of basic planeswalkers, but they work. You've got, you know, the Assemble. You've got Angel of Invention, which is a 2/1 with flying, vigilance, lifelink, and fabricate 2, and then other creatures get +2. So that's pretty good. You know, I know there's some really strong like angel-based cards and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're able to maybe do something with that, or soldiers. I know there's a lot of like soldier decks and stuff like that. So ultimately, I think we'll just kind of look at, we'll try to find some direction here with the red and white. I think it's, you know, it's got some good things in it, and I think, you know, red and white is very strong. I think this year there was a lot of red and white decks, which it seems to kind of come back a lot. So makes a lot of sense. But ultimately, I think we'll look at that and then maybe revisit it when we can find some cards to help this deck out, and, you know, maybe give it some assured direction. You know what I mean? If you guys are if anybody's watching this and you know anything about like red-white decks, especially ones that work well with this kind of aggressive play style, like the Warleader's Helix or Boros Charm or anything like that, feel free to let us know. I know that there was the what is the Firemane Angel? Didn't you used to have that, or did you take that out?
I took it out.
Okay.
I don't know where it went.
So, you know, I know there's cards like that, but I think that, and then you said you had 21 lands, right?
20. Yeah, 20.
20. So I think your ratio is good on the amount of lands that you have. You have 20 even. So
yeah.
Sometimes if you're running out of land, which I think we played earlier and you didn't have any land, I think you might have to go one more. Obviously you've got the Stone Quarry, which enters tapped. You know, if we could get, you know, 1 or 2 more lands in here that were red-white that didn't come in tapped, either, you know, obviously if you can get the really rare fetch lands, if we can get those, obviously that would be ideal, because then you could pay the 1 life, but you'd get those out. But if not, you know, I know that there's cards, kind of like I have the red and green one, the Rootbound Crag, which doesn't enter tapped if you have, you know,
Mountain or
like
forest.
a mountain or a forest, yeah. If, you know, for me, I don't remember what the red-white one is, but if we could get those, you know, that would probably be a little bit better. But I mean, I understand it, so it makes sense. You know, what I would ultimately like to see, though, if we could, is to kind of put in a land that also gives you something on top of the red and white. Because I mean, I know there's a lot of lands now that, you know, they'll do something else, like they'll give you a life, or, you know, it won't come in if you like already have a red or a white, or if you have 2 that aren't tapped or something like that, right? So if we could do that, you know, that might help out as well. But you know, maybe we check into that and see what other land options are. So I don't think it's too bad. I think you might be running a little too lean, running 20 instead of 21, but you know, we'd have to play test it to kind of figure that out. So maybe we'll play that on screen and kind of we'll draw some hands and then we'll play it versus and kind of see what the outcome is to maybe, you know, see if you're having a land problem. So I mean, that's it, unless you have anything else. Is there anything you wanted to talk about with the deck, or you know, anything that you want to put in here that isn't in here that you already know of?
I forgot which ley line the light one is, but it gives you hexproof.
You as a player?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anything else for other cards, like cards that you already have that you're looking to get 4 of, or
that's more Semmel's Legion.
4 of these?
Mm-hmm.
such a bastard card. What about these ones, like the Boros Charm, Warleaders?
Yeah.
You're trying to go more of that direction, or yeah, that's how I figured. So I'll probably try to get like 4 Boros and 4 Warleaders. Ultimately, maybe take a look at some other cards that would just go well with that. If anybody's watching this, and you know you have a red-white deck, or if you know some good suggestions for that type of deck, you know, give us some suggestions. We'll be open to it. We will be reformatting this deck soon with some newer cards, but we just thought we'd share this deck and, you know, see what you guys think. But I don't know. I think that's about it. All right, cool. Well, that's it for this video, I think, unless you have anything else. We'll revisit the deck, and you know, if we decide to make some changes with it, or if we get some new cards, you know, we'll talk about that as we go through to kind of really try to improve this deck. And even if we're not taking it into, you know, standard, or taking it to an actual, you know, like a tournament, right? And it's just for home, we still want to try to make it the best that we can if we can. So, I mean, that's it for me, unless you got anything else. All right, well, then we will catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye.